Today's video, I want to break it down for you so that you understand exactly what is happening. What is happening right now in Syria is very, very complex. To understand the whole situation, I will be using sources pro-Zionist. Actually, they are the Zionist, Jerusalem Post, to show you guys what are they worried about, how they are preparing to defeat this sudden force coming from the northeastern border of Israel. And I will explain more to you about Assad, his purpose, what he had been doing behind closed doors. You do not want to go anywhere. Before I move on, just to remind you, most of my viewers are not subscribed. If you happen to be one of them, consider subscribing. Let's take a look at this particular report. In this report, you can clearly see that Syria right now, Bashar al-Assad, he needs reinforcements, support, help so desperately. Returning to Syria for a moment, two Iraqi security sources have told Reuters that at least 300 fighters, primarily from Iranian-backed Badr and Nujaba groups, crossed into the country from Iraq late on Sunday using a dirt road to avoid the official border crossing. 300 fighters from Iraq, pro-Iran militia, entered into Syria to help and support this guy, Bashar al-Assad. Now, not only this, earlier on Sunday, a senior Syrian military, not Sunday, senior Syrian military source told the news agency, quote, "These are fresh reinforcements being sent to aid our comrades on the front lines in the north," adding that the fighters had crossed in small groups to avoid airstrikes from, could be Russia or even could be from Israel, because as we know, Israel, the Zionists, they conduct airstrikes in Syria on a regular basis. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi said on Monday that Syria's military was capable of confronting the rebels, but referring to the regional militia groups that Tehran backs, he added, quote unquote, "Resistance groups will help and Iran will provide any support needed." Are you sure about this, Mr. Abbas Araghchi? Well, why I'm asking this question? Now, let's take a look at the other side of the story, because I think you really need to hear this. It is important for the Zionist state to have Bashar al-Assad in power. Why am I saying this? Well, take a look at this quote from Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, and they have tweeted this one. "Let's be clear, and other terrorist groups," as if they are not terrorists. "The rebels, by the way, is ISIS. This time around, they are wearing militarized uniforms and not streaming the slaughters." In other words, what Mossad is saying is that this group, HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, is ISIS. That's what coming from Mossad. That's what it is also coming from Western media, because United States listed all of these groups as terrorists. And so Mossad has a special, obviously, interest in this because they want to protect themselves from these groups. So they are saying, unlike in the past, they have learned from their mistakes, these terrorist groups, and now they are not streaming their slaughters. What I'm trying to make a point here is that Mossad, Israeli intelligence agency, they're terrified and they do not want to deal with this kind of groups at all, because these groups, they're a bigger threat, just like Hamas. Now, why I say that? Well, according to the Western narrative and terrorist group, and including Zionist group, Hamas is a terrorist organization. If you promote, support, aid Hamas, you'll be in jail for years, maybe for life. Likewise, if you say anything in support of these groups, you'll be arrested and thrown in the dungeon. In other words, they do not like these groups. They want us to believe and make it universal that these groups are to be distant from, because again, they are not of any interest. Hamas is a terrorist group. These groups are terrorist groups, and they have experience with Hamas, what they have done on October the 7th. Obviously, we have different version of the number of casualties, including the Hannibal Directive. We believe the casualties, those 1,200 people got killed, they were killed mostly by ITF itself, Israeli terrorist forces, and not by Hamas. But nevertheless, Israel, they have dealt with Hamas for years now, since the 1980s when Hamas was formed, and they could not defeat this small Islamist jihadist group. Now, the title or the labeling is important here. Islamic jihadist group, that's what they call Hamas. These are all terrorists. Since they could not deal with this small minority, small, tiny, like a fly, and still today we see Israeli forces are getting defeated every single time, every single day in Gaza. Yesterday I have reported 9 or 10 soldiers were killed or injured. I am reporting almost every day, giving you the numbers of what is happening on the ground. Since Israel cannot defeat this small little group, and they cannot even negotiate with them, because there is no negotiation when it comes to Hamas, Israel is too terrified of Hamas. If you let them be, they will come after you, just like they came after Israel on October 7th. But here is the thing. If you let Hezbollah do whatever they want, and you do not mess up with Hezbollah, they will not come after you. Because all Hezbollah wants is the water on Jordanian river to flow. And Israel says, if you want that water, you do not mess up with us. Hezbollah agreed, we will not mess up with you. You do not mess up with us. But if you do, we have rockets, missiles, hundreds and thousands of them will attack you, to Israel. And Israel says, in return, if you dare attacking us, we will bomb you. We will stop your shipments of weapons and arms coming from wherever. And Israel, at the same time, they are taking actions. They're not sitting down. This is why you see every now and then Syrian airport like Damascus is coming under attack. Why? Because Hezbollah is receiving new and advanced weapons with modern technologies from Iran. And therefore, Israel has no other choice but to go after Hezbollah, try to weaken them. And therefore, we have the war that is taking place at the moment. Even though there is supposed to be a ceasefire, I don't think anybody cares. The point here is that it is easy to contain Hezbollah than Hamas. And this is what is terrifying to Israel. Now, you do not have to believe anything I'm saying, because I have something that I want to share with you to perhaps say what is happening from a Zionist perspective. Then maybe you will know how terrified the Zionist regime is of this Islamic jihadist group that they label them as. So, this is what is coming on the Jerusalem Post. Pay attention to this. Unfortunately, you cannot see the whole thing on the screen, so I'm going to be reading it for you. This is what they said, quote, if Syrian President Bashar al-Assad were replaced by forces like Free Syrian Army or the Kurdish group who wanted to pry Syria away from the autocratic Assad and who had a pro-Western bent, then that would be one thing. Means if Syrian army, the Free Syrian Army, you know them, right? They are very pro-Western. Also the Kurds, the Kurdistan, they receive weapons from US and they go after Turkey. According to Jerusalem Post and the Zionists, if these groups were taking power away from Assad, it would have been one thing. But that is not the case. The rebel groups, quote, now controlling Aleppo include Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, a jihadist alliance links with Al-Qaeda, which in recent years has tried to moderate its image. They are now, Jerusalem Post, they are now talking about the risk with these groups coming into power instead of Bashar al-Assad. They said, quote, if Syrian President Bashar al-Assad were replaced by such forces, means HTS or Al-Qaeda, Israel could face a new Sunni jihadist threat on its northern border. With support from Erdogan, a scenario reminiscent of the situation Israel faced in where? Gaza. a Sunni jihadist threat with support from Erdogan. And again, I'm not saying anything. It is coming directly from Jerusalem Post. They are saying just like Erdogan supported Hamas, or he wants to support, he cannot, because there is no way you can smuggle or send any military help to Hamas in Gaza, because it is as I said, it's open air prison, right? But nevertheless, Erdogan can support these new groups, this jihadist group. That's why they are so afraid of. Additionally, a resurgence of violence in Syria could trigger another refugee crisis, increasing pressure on Jordan, which is not in Israel's strategic interest. We'll not talk about refugee crisis yet. There is also the risk, let's talk about this, that Assad's military assets, including potential chemical weapons, could fall into the hands of jihadist groups. Again, as a lot of people said, these groups are pro-Zionist. These groups are Western-backed. And I said, no, guys, these are not Western-backed groups. The HTS, they are not funded by Western countries. Instead, the Western countries, they're terrified that these chemical weapons that Bashar al-Assad used in the year 2013 on September 24th could fall into the hand of these crazy people, this group, who could use it against who? Israel. A further concern is that recent trends of Assad, and again, all of these are coming from who? The Zionist mouthpiece. They are saying, we are afraid these weapons could fall into their hands. A further concern is that recent trends of Assad showing, now here where things get very, very interesting, because a lot of people say, oh, Assad means Iran. As I have also read Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi's statement, we will support Assad every way possible. Here is the thing, guys. What people don't see, I mean, the Iranian government, they can see it, and perhaps they will take action or modify it accordingly. But what we don't understand is that Assad's power is not good for Iran. Because Jerusalem Post, again, coming from Zionist mouthpiece, they are saying that a further concern is that recent trends of Assad showing an interest in limiting Iran's entrenchment and Hezbollah's activities in Syria, especially in the south, to avoid provoking an Israeli retaliation that could bring down his regime, could be reversed. They are saying Assad is now what? Pro-peace. He is against his trend, recent activities, according to, again, Jerusalem Post, is showing that he's actually distancing himself from Iran. Why? Because of Israel. Israel said to Assad, if you continue your help to Iran heavily, we will bring your regime down. Clear? And again, it is coming from Zionists. Don't quote me. Don't say, oh, this guy he's a pro-Zionist. Don't. This is coming from Zionist mouthpiece themselves, that Assad is actually distancing from Iran. Over the past year, Israel has reportedly carried out some 70 strikes in Syria to prevent Iran from bolstering Hezbollah in Lebanon. Assad, wary of Israeli reprisals, has largely avoided direct confrontation and has stayed out of the current war. The genocide in Gaza happening, Syrian President Assad, that guy, did not open his mouth, did not say a single word, even though Iranian IRGC, they have made so many rhetoric, so many times, calling for an all-out war against Israel, threatening them with retaliation and attack, but Assad did not open his mouth. So people say, whoever is saying Assad is important, he's helping the resistance forces, you guys really need to listen to what I'm saying. So over the past year, Israel has reportedly carried out 70 strikes in Syria to prevent Iran from bolstering Hezbollah in Lebanon. Assad, wary of Israeli reprisals, has largely avoided direct confrontation and has stayed out of the current war, even reportedly reaching out to Moscow to encourage Iran not to heavily entrench itself inside Syria as before, so as not to give Israel a pretense to attack. Now, you still love Assad, who killed his own people, the butcher? He's now telling Moscow, Russia, stop Iran from coming to my country because Israel might attack me, and I don't want that. So he doesn't really care about Iran. He doesn't really care about the resistance force. He doesn't care about genocide. All he cares is about himself. And so he reached out to Putin, begging him to talk to Iran and tell them, don't send your weapons to us in Syria, using Syrian airport, transporting to Hezbollah. No, we don't want that, because I need my power to be protected. The recent overtures Assad has made to moderate Sunni countries, so he's a Shia, but he's reaching out to who? UAE. He's reaching out to who? Saudi Arabia. Such as the UAE have been interpreted as an attempt to put some distance between Syria and Iran. You still love Assad? You are Iranian supporter? The Revolt offensive, however, forced Assad to strengthen his reliance on Iran to repel these advances, reversing any progress made in distancing himself from the quote-unquote axis of resistance. Such a shift could bring more Iranian forces into Syria, heightening the threat to Israel. Therefore, what will happen? If Assad is in power, more Iranian help will come, because Iran will not abandon Assad. Even though Assad abandoned Iran, Iran will not do that. They are men of principle. They have morality. They are way more dignified than Assad. But Assad will leave Iran. But because of this attack by HTS, he is now going to cozy up to Iran. And Iran will send more weapons. And when that happens, Israel will attack Assad. In other words, right now he is in trouble, regardless of how you look at this war or the situation unfolding. I want you to take a look at this particular report from the CJ Werleman, I believe his name. Let's play the video and see what he has to say here.
And here you have Mossad's social media accounts smearing the rebels to be part of a great Sunni conspiracy against Israel, one backed by Turkey. For these reasons, Israel is preparing to carry out airstrikes against the Syrian revolutionary forces to help Assad stay in power. And I will speak more about Israel at the end of this episode. But let's now take a closer look at Operation Respond to Aggression, which was launched by the Free Syrian People on the 27th of November, with the aim of liberating homes and land that have been stolen and occupied by the Assad regime and Iran's sectarian militias for the past 8 years. The counteroffensive is moving at breakneck speeds, making it impossible for journalists to keep up with fast-moving events. But we start with Syria's second biggest city, Aleppo, which was liberated on Friday. Aleppo is where Syrian university students peacefully protested against Assad.
So basically he is now going into the past history, how Assad has pretty much destroyed the people of Aleppo, the people of Syria, how he imprisoned hundreds and thousands of Syrians without any trial. There is a picture or a video footage on Al Jazeera, I believe. Now, don't say, oh, this guy is pro Al Jazeera. No, I just came across this video where this mother was separated from his son for the last 8 years. And there is his father who was separated from his son for the last 6 years. Son, little child, was in Syrian prison under Bashar al-Assad for the last 6 years. The father did not see him for the last 6 years. The mother did not see her child for the last 8 years. And you still support Assad. Assad is not helping in any way, shape, or form these resistance forces. Absolutely not. And you know what? When we talk about Trump and we talk about Hezbollah, when I mentioned that it is easy to negotiate with Hezbollah than Hamas, is because of this. Take a look what happened recently. Trump, he appointed Lebanon-born Mossad Boulos as Arab and Middle East advisor. He's a pro-Hezbollah person. This guy is, you can see on the picture, this guy is pro-Hezbollah. Can you imagine? This is the same administration, U.S. administration, called Hezbollah as terrorists, and they are appointing a pro-Hezbollah man. By the way, he's the father-in-law of Trump's daughter, Tiffany. Okay, this guy is father-in-law of Tiffany, Trump's daughter. Can you imagine? And he's pro-Hezbollah. He's appointing this guy as his advisor, Middle East advisor. Why? It is because it's easy to deal with Hezbollah. Call it a ceasefire anytime they want. They have people to talk to. But with these groups that they call jihadists, they can have absolutely zero idea. They cannot actually reach out to anybody because nobody is in power, because it's a totally messed up situation. Now, when we talk about Erdogan, let's see. Some people are talking about what this guy is doing. Now, this guy is actually playing the cards very, very silently. I'm not a supporter of Erdogan, by the way. I used to support him a lot. I used to love him a lot, but now I don't. I think this guy really need to help the people of Gaza more, and he's all talk. But take a look what he said. Israel is planning to occupy the West Bank, and it won't stop in Gaza. It will cover lands in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey after occupying Ramallah. Turkish President Erdogan, the world is waking up. Why am I bringing him in this conversation? Because he is now the man. He has the card. He has the ball in his court. Why? Because these jihadist groups, they are now under his support, under his umbrella. He's helping them. If he wants this whole thing to stop, HTS's movement, he can do it within a blink of an eye. But he is playing the card. His rhetoric was always, we are coming after who? Israel. Israel is a terrorist state. This is the guy. And now I understand why he said those things. Harsh words. No action. The reason he said that, perhaps, again, I'm not a supporter of him, perhaps he was setting the ground to justify this kind of groups advance and taking over lands in Syria, whom he was supporting from the very beginning. Erdogan was supporting these groups from the very beginning, guys. This is not something new. He was supporting this, and he was funding these groups. And these groups, as CJ, the other journalist, he mentioned, the advance of these groups, this guy he just mentioned, they were taking over land so fast that even the journalists find it very hard to keep up. Why so fast? Why they're so successful all of a sudden is because of this man. Don't make any mistake, Erdogan. Turkey supported them, aided them, helped them, and Turkey was the one to give them the green light to go and attack and take over Aleppo. Because Turkey also corroborated with them. I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe this is what happened. Turkey told this group, right now Iran is occupied, Hezbollah is occupied with Israel, Russia is occupied with Iran. Now go. It is your time to go and liberate Aleppo and go after Assad. And this is where it all started. This is the man who is responsible for all of this. You like him, you love him, I don't care. I don't personally support him. But this is the man behind all of this. Guys, what will happen now is Bashar al-Assad is going to be in big trouble. We're going to see change in the status quo. And we hope that the resistance will continue on, because the genocide must stop. All we want is this genocide, these atrocities of Zionists to stop and hold, and the countries should hold this Zionist state accountable, this fake state of Israel. Thank you so much, guys, for joining this session. If you have any comment, leave a comment in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful